Cybersecurity technology company CrowdStrike just released third quarter earnings. Here's a look at what they had to say. Results, revenue coming in at $1.23 billion. That's a 22% year over year increase. The estimate had been for 121, so that is a beat for the company there. Subscription revenue coming in at $1.17 billion, and that's a 21% year over year increase. The estimate had been for 1.16, so a small beat for them there as well. Professional services revenue, $65.5 million, 38% year over year increase. The estimate had been for 57.3, so a very strong beat for them in that market. And adjusted earnings per share, 96 cents. The estimate had been for 94. And CrowdStrike sees fourth quarter revenue coming in at $1.29 billion to $1.3 billion. The estimate had been on the low end of that at $1.29 billion. It is also boosting its 2026 year forecast, seeing revenue at $4.8 billion to $4.81. The estimate for the Bloomberg consensus had been $4.78 billion. Let's talk about this with Todd Weller. He's Managing Director of Technology at Stephens. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So a pretty strong report from this company. Is the annual recurring revenue the key metric here? It came in at $4.92 billion.
Yeah, that's the leading indicator, the top metric to focus on. It was, 0.5% ahead of consensus, healthy growth, 22.5%. I think that 20% growth bogey is key for CrowdStrike. And keep in mind, there's been a tremendous focus on net new ARR acceleration occurring in the second half of this year, and that is materializing.
Okay, can you just tell us what products are doing well for the company?
Yeah, so CrowdStrike is unique that in cyber, right, they're a strategic cybersecurity platform. So if you look at the company's roots, they were endpoint security, but they are much broader than that today. So as we go into the call, we'll be looking at their kind of three emerging growth areas, next-gen SIEM, for example, identity security, cloud security. Those are all big businesses that have been experiencing solid growth. We don't get that level of detail in the earnings release. We'll have to wait for the call, but we would expect continued momentum. But, we view CrowdStrike benefiting from kind of security consolidation, this move to strategic platforms, and it's really them today and Palo Alto Networks that are the two strategic cyber platform providers.
Who would be its biggest clients?
CrowdStrike has lots of customers. They're large enterprise down to mid-market, but they are widely used. They're the number one market share player, in terms of pure play next generation endpoint. So broad-based across industries, like I said, large enterprise down to mid-market. CrowdStrike's really a household name, household brand company in cyber.
The AI rollout, would that be positive for them internally, and would it affect their customer base in a way that they would require more cybersecurity?
Yeah, so unlike other areas of software in cyber, AI has been generally viewed as positive, right? It's creating more sophisticated attacks, easier, but it's also expanding the attack surface as organizations deploy AI infrastructure, right? Whether that's their own models, AI agents, that's a new attack surface that has to be secured. And some of that's occurring in cloud environments, so it's fueling kind of cloud security growth. Some of it is occurring in on-prem environments, but it's early stages. CrowdStrike did a recent acquisition of a company called Pangea here, and there's a lot of cyber companies going after that market. But we think AI is a big opportunity for cyber in general.
Okay, let's talk about competition. You mentioned Palo Alto. I'm wondering if some of the other big tech names are also getting into cybersecurity and posing any threat to CrowdStrike.
Yeah, look, cyber is competitive. The big are getting bigger. So I do think companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto, by being focused on cyber and being big, have scale advantages. Microsoft has long been a player in cyber. They've long been, also a player in endpoint security with Microsoft Defender. But that's left plenty of growth and opportunity for CrowdStrike and others. Clearly, Google, right, with the acquisitions they've done of Mandiant, and then most recently Wiz Security is eyeing the space, and then you've had companies like ServiceNow make a move. So I think cyber is increasingly being viewed as an attractive space. It's always been competitive. There's always been competition from bigger companies, but I think CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, and other focused cyber players have proven, there's plenty of growth opportunity for companies focused on the space.
I was going to ask you, because we know that some of the tech stocks have been taking a bit of a drag down towards the end of the year as people worry about spending. I would imagine the cybersecurity companies are not in that same vein.
Well, the stocks had a tough November, so I think it was nothing fundamental about the group. I just think a lot of tech and a lot of software underperformed due to concerns over AI and valuation and the sector rotation. It's interesting. Sometimes you do see inter-sector rotations where people might flow into cyber because it's safer, but I don't think you really saw that in November. But generally, we think fundamentals for cyber continue to be healthy. We saw good September quarter results. And the October quarter results we've seen to date have also been healthy.
What does the company have moving forward, looking into 2026, that it has a lot of growth potential for it?
Yeah, so as we get into next year for CrowdStrike, again, it's going to be these newer areas. We think, next-gen SIEM, which is, security operations center platforms, that's an established market that is going through like a renaissance, a modernization. So we think that's going to continue to pick up momentum. I think identity security remains one of the most attractive areas in cyber. CrowdStrike's increasing their focus there, and we expect strong growth there. Cloud's going to continue. Again, a lot of AI is happening out in cloud environments. And they also have other emerging areas like exposure management. So CrowdStrike is exposed to a lot of big cyber markets that have attractive growth opportunities. And I think it's continued execution there. And then I think as we look to next year, we look for AI to start to become more material in terms of demand for AI security solutions. That is also driving data security too, where CrowdStrike has exposure to.
Is it going to be more efficient if it uses AI within its own operation?
When you say more efficient, like CrowdStrike using or cyber companies?
No, CrowdStrike using AI within its operation to become more efficient, like we're seeing other tech companies or financial companies right now do.
Yeah, look, at the margin, CrowdStrike's talked about increasing internal use of AI, whether that's around like customer support, right, software development type stuff. And I think at the margin, that will be a net positive for profitability. And we expect continued improvement for CrowdStrike profitability as we get into next year. But I think the primary focus here will be on growth. And one thing I would say, in their release, they did reaffirm the guidance for next year's net new ARR growth of 20% growth. That was an initial outlook they gave at their analyst meeting a few months back. That was better than street consensus.
Got it. All right, Todd Weller, sir, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.